All right, so what are the big challenges with time management? And man, that's actually going to be pretty easy. You don't even have to think about it. It's pretty hard. But number one is two main things you need to do, not enough time. There's so many tasks that you need to complete. However, there's just only enough time during the day when you're awake you can possibly accomplish all of those, or at least finalize all of those tasks. Then the second thing, due to the high number of individual tasks that you're working on, you're not really sure where to start from. So you're getting paralyzed, you're not really being able to complete anything. You're switching from one thing to another thing, then going back and forth, just wasting too much time, being overwhelmed, not knowing which thing to prioritize first. And then the last thing is just pure focus. Maybe you're too ADD, maybe you're getting distracted pretty easily, or maybe other people are distracting you all the time by getting some client messages, emails, phone calls, your boss, and so on, distracting you all the time, not being able to actually sit down, stay focused for enough time in order to complete a task. My name is Niki and I'm an international fitness coach, and as the job title suggests, working with people in different time zones, in different countries, meaning that there's always someone awake, always someone texting you. And since everything's happening online, you need to be very, very careful how you structure your time, unless you want to go crazy. And the tips I'm going to share with you are based on actual experience, something that I've learned over the past couple of years, not just my own experience, but that of clients and that of people who are much smarter than me, just exchanging some advice and figuring out what works best in terms of time management. Few key concepts that you need to understand before you actually get into structuring your day and having a very specific plan. First thing, and it's a bit of a misconception there, that people cannot multitask. And this is wrong. You can clearly multitask, so can I. And here's an example. I'm waving this pen around, I'm talking to you, I'm watching the screen that's behind the camera. This is multitasking, engaging in different activities at the same time. The reason why I can wave my pen and talk to you is simply because this motion doesn't really take a lot of focus. Talking to you takes a lot of focus, but the rest of the stuff doesn't really require a lot of my attention. It is not even conscious. Multi-focusing is very hard, and if you try to focus on two separate things at the same time, you will fail and you would waste too much time. That is why when it comes to time management and being efficient, you really need to focus on only one thing at a time and forget about all the rest. Don't try to jump from one task to another task. This is super important. If you try to do two or three things at the same time that require a lot of focus, again, this is the key word here, focus, not the number of tasks. Second point, as the day progresses, you are getting more and more exhausted. This could include physical exhaustion or mental exhaustion. In any case, your ability to perform and be productive starts to diminish. That is why when you're prioritizing or when you're choosing which thing to focus on first, think of its demands, like mental, physical demands, just how much they're going to drain you. The last thing that doesn't require any conscious focus on your part, you can just do it. You don't really have to think about this. You can do it in a highly distracted state, then leave it for last. So this is general idea in terms of how to prioritize your tasks throughout your day. Last point, attention. So as we said, you want to be able to focus. This is very important. Also, you want to make sure that you're fresh whenever you're dealing with some challenging tasks. However, you need to also be in an undistracted state, which there's a lot of overlap with being able to focus, but this means that you cut off all distraction. There's a couple of things you can do based on your situation. So if you're working from home, if you're not really working in a busy office, just turn your phone off, put it on the airplane mode, no sound, no notifications, no flashing screen or anything like this. Make sure that there's nothing that could distract you. No phone calls, no answering emails. If you have some distracting tabs on your browser, close them off. Leave just the stuff that is relevant to your specific task. And of course, in certain situations, that could be a little bit tricky depending on the type of work that you're doing. Sometimes people need to reach to you and be able to communicate to you. This is where being completely honest with the people that you're working with and communicating your needs and how you work is very important. Let people know when you're unavailable, when you're working on very important tasks and you need your full attention. Let people know when they can reach out to you and when is just no texting time. You're not going to be answering any emails. You're going to have your time dedicated for something very, very specific, very, very important. You may be thinking like, oh my God, like people are going to freak out. No, most people will understand. And it's also not just for your own benefit, but for their benefit as well. If you're working with clients, they benefit a lot from you being very focused when you're working on their projects. And of course, this goes that while you do set aside time for being focused on specific projects, you also do set aside time for answering to your clients' requests. So basically for communication, you have your time when you're so focused, so purpose is to be answering emails. This way your client knows that when you were writing back to them, you were completely focused on the task and your full attention was there. You weren't working on something else and at the same time completing an email, not really thinking about what you're going to say, having more of a generic answer, and then the client doesn't really know what you're saying, they're confused, and this just wastes too much time. So that's why eliminate distractions, be clear about your priorities in terms of the time that you need to be unreachable and the time when people can actually reach you and talk to you. Okay, so how do you organize your day? You already know the basics, then we need to apply them to a specific plan. That plan is called time blocking. You're blocking out different times throughout your day for a very specific task, single task. You're only working on one project for a set amount of time. And my recommendation there is focus on the most important things you need to do throughout the day and have 3 to maybe 5 blocks for those specific tasks. And yes, I understand you have to do a lot of things. There's probably 100 different things you need to accomplish throughout the day. But very likely, the most important stuff, the things that really matters and that you need to work every single day on, or most days, could be narrowed down just to 3 or 5 choices. You don't want to be planning every single second of your day. This will drive you nuts, and as you probably know from experience, trying to plan every single thing just never works out. Some tasks, some projects are going to take longer than you've pre-planned, and then once this happens, oh, it's going to be a complete mess. You're not going to be able to stick to a plan anymore. Let's say you start working at 8 in the morning. You can block out a 3-hour window during this time of the day from 8 to 11 to work on a very specific task. What this would accomplish is that, first off, you're focusing on just one thing. You're not being distracted essentially. And at the same time, since there's a clear end to this block, there's this sense of urgency, there's this deadline. You need to be very productive in order to complete all that you need to do until 11. Then after this, don't structure the next thing. So don't plan out the next block. Leave a buffer. It could be anywhere from 15 minutes to about an hour. My personal recommendation is in between all the individual time blocks throughout the day, leave at least 1 hour. This is your buffer, and what this would do for you is it would allow you to have a little bit of extra time in case what you were working on just had to take a little bit longer than planned. Yeah, there's going to be the urgency, and yes, you clearly need to stop at one point or another because the next thing is going to start. But at least you have a little bit of a buffer time to deal with those situations. During those buffers, what else you can do is deal with all the miscellaneous tasks. So things that take only 5, maybe 10 minutes, you can reply to emails, you can get back to clients, you can talk to your boss, whatever. That buffer is there. It can really help you deal with those amounts, or at least tick off those small tasks throughout the day. Let's say your next time block starts at 12. So it goes from 12 to 3 p.m. or something like this. So it's another 3-hour block. You work again, you work on a different project now, then it ends, you have another buffer, then you have your next block. This one, since it's very hard at this point to remain focused, keep in mind that your productivity, your peak productivity lasts about 3 to 4 hours. After this, it starts to decline. Not a lot, but it clearly starts to decline. Let's say your first 2 blocks last 3 hours, then the next 2 last 2 hours each. And there are less important tasks that don't require as much focus. And let's say your very last time block that lasts maybe just a single hour is for all the miscellaneous stuff. So all the things that you still need to do throughout the day, but you just push them back and you have a separate block that is called miscellaneous. That's it. Block out time for just the important stuff. Anything else, do it either during the buffer time or have a separate time block for all the rest. Right, hopefully you got something out of this video. Until next time, cheers.